My friends, tonight I invite you to step beyond the narrow circle of your present life and dare to see yourself as the builder of an empire, not an empire of stone or steel alone, but an empire of vision, imagination, and destiny. Every empire the world has ever known began first in the unseen realm of thought, held by one who believed in its inevitability. You are not here to merely exist. You are here to reign within your own world through the mastery of your imagination. Do not shrink yourself to fit the circumstances you see. Instead, enlarge your vision and act as if you are already the emperor of your life. For to act as if is to call forth the reality that waits for you. Tonight I will show you how to walk, speak, and live as if you are building an empire, until the empire itself rises around you. Once the empire begins in imagination, my friends, let us pause for a moment and understand the foundation of everything you have ever known. Before a single stone is laid upon another, before the builder raises his hammer, before the architect unrolls his plans, there is imagination. Nothing, absolutely nothing enters this visible world unless it is first conceived in the invisible world of mind. Consider it, the very clothes upon your back, the chair upon which you sit, the lights illuminating this hall, all of them were once invisible thoughts. Someone dared to see them before you could touch them. Someone dared to imagine their form before they had shape. That is the secret I wish to impress upon you tonight. Every empire you dream of, no matter how vast, no matter how bold, must first exist in the quiet sanctuary of your imagination. Now, imagination is not a weak fancy. It is not daydreaming without substance. Imagination is the very womb of creation. It is God's creative power clothed in the mind of man. You hold within yourself the same creative energy that brought forth the stars, and yet most of us use it only to replay yesterday's failure. You must awaken to the truth that imagination is the soil in which empires are planted. I tell you this with all certainty. If you can hold an image with faith and feeling, if you can live in it as though it were already so, then the world must rearrange itself to reflect it. Just as the seed carries within itself the tree, so too does your imagined state carry within itself the empire you long to build. But notice when I say empire, I do not limit you to nations or crowns of gold. Your empire may be the mastery of your craft, the abundance of wealth, the harmony of family, the power to heal, or the ability to uplift humanity. Whatever your empire is, the law remains the same. It begins in imagination. Let me illustrate. Think of a young man who looks at a bare field. To the ordinary eye there is nothing there, just dirt and grass. But within his imagination he sees something else. He sees towers rising. He sees gardens blooming. He sees fountains flowing. He sees the laughter of people walking through streets that do not yet exist. And while others dismiss him as a dreamer, he is quietly laying the first foundation stone within himself. Years later the world beholds what he once saw in silence, and they call him visionary. But he was simply faithful to imagination. So I ask you tonight, what do you see when you close your eyes? Do you see only what is, or do you dare to see what can be? The emperor of his world does not accept appearances as final. He looks beyond. He sees with the eye of spirit. He knows that the invisible is more real than the visible. Understand this. Every great empire of history was invisible long before it was visible. Rome, before it was stone and marble, was vision in the heart of men. The great empires of art, Michelangelo's David, Beethoven's symphonies, Shakespeare's plays, were all unseen realities before they took form. If that was true for them, why should it not be true for you? But here lies the difficulty. Most of us allow imagination to be governed by fear, by doubt, by the evidence of the senses. We imagine failure, we imagine loss, we imagine rejection, and then we wonder why the world reflects such things back to us. My friends, imagination does not discriminate. It faithfully produces what you plant in it, whether it be weeds or wheat. That is why you must guard your inner vision with diligence. To build an empire, you must first become master of your inner world. Each time you close your eyes, you are laying brick. Each thought, each image, each assumption is a stone in the invisible palace of your future. What structure are you building? Are you erecting walls of doubt or pillars of faith? Are you laying down floors of despair or arches of triumph? Now let us go deeper. You must not only imagine vaguely, you must imagine with feeling. It is not enough to see your empire in faint outline. You must dwell in it, walk in it, feel its reality until it becomes more alive to you than the life you now see. The senses may mock you, but you must persist. The senses may say, it is not here, but you must declare, it is already done. For example, if your empire is financial abundance, do not merely wish for money. Instead, see yourself handling it, giving from it, investing it, blessing others with it. Feel the security of it, the relief of it, the joy of it, until the feeling becomes natural. If your empire is influence, do not simply hope for recognition. Instead, feel the weight of responsibility, the confidence of standing before others, the gratitude of those you uplift. When the feeling becomes natural, the empire must appear. And let me remind you, imagination works instantly, though manifestation may take time. Do not despise the small beginnings. A seed does not sprout into a mighty oak overnight. Yet within the seed is the certainty of the oak. So too, when you plant the seed of empire in imagination, trust that it is growing even now beneath the soil of appearances. When you doubt, return again to imagination. When you feel weary, return again to imagination. When the world shouts impossible, return again to imagination. It is there in the silence of your inner world that the empire is already alive. Now here is the mystery. You are not waiting for the empire is waiting for you. It already exists in the eternal now. You need only align yourself with it by assuming its reality. The moment you do, you begin to draw from the infinite storehouse of creation. So tonight I charge you. Dare to imagine, dare to see with the eye of, dare to walk through palaces not yet built, to hear the applause not yet given, to feel the wealth not yet counted, to embrace the joy not yet seen. For when you make imagination more real than fact, fact itself must bend to imagination. This then is the beginning of empire, not in money, not in armies, not in land, but in the unseen chamber of the mind. If you can see it within, and if you can hold it faithfully, the day must come when you walk within it without. Therefore, act as if you have already entered the palace. Act as if you have already been crowned. Act as if the empire is already yours, for in truth it already is. Tip. The law of assumption. My friends, now that we have laid the foundation by understanding that every empire begins in imagination, let us go deeper into the law by which imagination becomes fact. This is what I call the law of assumption. If you grasp this law and apply it faithfully, there is nothing, no dream, no empire, no destiny that you cannot bring forth into this visible world. The law of assumption declares this simple yet profound truth. You become what you assume yourself to be. Life does not respond to your wishes, your complaints, or even your prayers alone. It responds to your assumption, the state you accept as true, whether or not the senses confirm it. Let me illustrate. Then man may wish to be wealthy, but if every night as he lies down to sleep, he assumes the state of lack, of worry, of insufficiency, then wealth cannot come to him. Why? Because assumption is the creative act, and he has assumed the wrong state. Another may wish for love, but if she assumes herself unworthy, unloved, and overlooked, then even in a crowd she will find loneliness. The world mirrors not your desires, but your assumptions. Now, to assume is not to assume is to claim within yourself that the thing you long for is already accomplished. It is to walk in the end as though the end has already been reached. It is to say, I am, not I will be. And this is the great secret. If you dare to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and persist in that assumption, it must harden into fact. When I tell you this, many of you will at once raise the question, but what if my senses deny it? What if my bank account shows empty? What if my body aches with sickness? What if the evidence screams against my assumption? My answer is simple. The senses are servants, not masters. They reflect what has been assumed, not what is eternal. If you continue to bow before appearances, you will remain their prisoner. But if you dare to stand upon your assumption and declare it more real than what you see, the senses themselves will eventually conform. Consider a seed planted in the earth. On the day you plant it, nothing appears. The soil looks barren, but within the seed is already alive, already unfolding according to its pattern. If you dig it up each day to check for progress, you destroy it. So it is with assumption. You must plant it in the soil of imagination, and then trust the unseen process until the harvest appears. Let us make this practical. Suppose you desire to build an empire of business success. The ordinary man says, one day, if luck is with me, if the market favors me, if the right people notice me, then perhaps I will succeed. But the man of understanding says, I already am the successful ruler of my enterprise. I walk as though it is mine. I speak as one established. I feel the security of it now. He assumes the end is present, and by that assumption, he draws into his world the means to make it visible. Or suppose you long for health. The ordinary mind says, if the doctor's report changes, then I will feel better. But the awakened mind says, I assume myself well. I feel the vitality of health within me. I walk as though healed even when the body protects. And slowly, surely, the body reshapes itself to the assumption held in spirit. The law is impartial. It works whether you use it knowingly or ignorantly. If you assume fear, fear is what you receive. If you assume joy, joy finds you. If you assume lack, lack will not leave you. And if you assume abundance, abundance must appear. The only question is, what are you assuming day after day, hour after hour, moment after moment? Now here is where persistence enters. A single assumption, held briefly, may pass like a cloud, but an assumption persisted in becomes a state, and the state becomes reality. You cannot plant a seed today and dig it up tomorrow and expect fruit. You must persist until the invisible is made visible. Do not mistake persistence for effort. Persistence is not straining. It is not forcing. It is simply remaining faithful to the state assumed. Each time doubt arises, you return quietly within and say, it is already done. Each time fear whispers, you answer, I live in the end. This gentle but firm persistence wears away the resistance of the senses until the world yields. Let me tell you, the law of assumption is not a trick, nor is it mere positive thinking. It is the recognition that consciousness is the one and only reality. You are always assuming something about yourself and your world, and that assumption is always producing effect. The tragedy is that most of us assume unconsciously. We assume defeat. We assume rejection. We assume hardship, and then we say, life is cruel. But life is only the mirror, faithfully reflecting what you have assumed. So tonight I urge you, take the reins of your imagination. Choose your assumption wisely. Do not wait for outer proof to change your inner state. Change your inner state, and the outer proof must follow. This is the law, and it never fails. Let us make an experiment together. Tonight before you sleep, dare to assume the state of the wish fulfilled. If your empire is wealth, imagine yourself counting it, spending it, blessing others with it. If your empire is influence, imagine yourself standing before multitudes, speaking with authority, feeling their respect. If your empire is love, imagine yourself embraced, cherished, secure. Whatever your empire may be, claim it now, not as a hope, but as an accomplished fact. As you drift into sleep, let that assumption be the last thought upon your mind. Sleep is the gateway into the subconscious, and the assumption carried into sleep sinks down into the fertile soil of creation. There it grows silently until it blossoms in your waking life. You may say to me, but Neville, is it not dishonest to assume what is not yet true? And I tell you, the only dishonesty is to deny the truth of imagination. The senses show you only what is. Imagination shows you what shall be. To assume the end is not deceit. It is faith in the unseen reality that is more enduring than appearances. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a sculptor with a block of marble. To the untrained eye it is only a stone, but the sculptor assumes within himself the vision of the statue already complete. He does not wait for the stone to reveal it. He assumes it is there, and by that assumption he chisels away until the invisible becomes visible. So too must you be the sculptor of your destiny. Assume your empire already stands, and life will carve away the excess until only the vision remains. Now I must warn you, when you assume a new state, the old state will resist. Old habits, old voices, old evidence will cry out, but pay them no mind. They are but shadows of yesterday. Stand firm in your assumption. Let the world shake if it must, but do not surrender your crown, for the crown belongs to the one who dares to assume. The empire belongs to the one who lives in the end. The law does not fail, nor does it sleep. It is always at work, shaping the world in the image of your assumption. So tonight let this truth be sealed in your heart. You are already the builder of an empire, if you dare to assume it. Do not wait, do not beg, do not plead. Assume, walk as though it is so, speak as though it is so, feel as though it is so. And the day must come when, What you have assumed within is revealed without. This is the law of assumption. And when you master it, you will know yourself to be not the servant of circumstance, but the sovereign of creation. 3. Walking in the new identity. My friends, the moment you grasp the law of assumption, you realize that life itself is nothing but a mirror reflecting your inner state. But here lies the challenge. It is not enough to imagine once and then return to the old self. You must walk, live, breathe, and carry yourself as though the new identity were already yours. This is what I mean by walking in the new identity. An emperor does not rise from his bed in the morning and question if he is truly king. He does not wonder if his throne exists or if the crown is truly his. No, he assumes it without question. He walks as ruler. He speaks as ruler. He thinks as ruler. His entire bearing is shaped by his identity. And so it must be with you. If you would build your empire, you must begin now to live from the identity of the one who has already built it. Let me be very clear. You cannot carry the old self into the new kingdom. If you say, I want to be wealthy, but you continue to walk as one who is poor, speaking of lack, thinking of scarcity, feeling unworthy, then wealth cannot clothe you. If you say, I long for love, but you walk in bitterness, expecting rejection, assuming loneliness, then love cannot find its way to you. To enter the new world, you must walk in the new identity now. When I speak of walking, I do not mean only the motion of the body. I mean the inner posture of the mind. Every gesture, every word, every thought must align with the state assumed. If you assume yourself successful, then you do not slump in despair. You do not shrink in doubt. You stand as one whose success is certain. Even in silence, your very presence radiates the reality you have assumed. Think of it this way, the world is your audience and you are always on stage. You cannot rehearse failure and expect to perform victory. You cannot rehearse lack and expect to play abundant. The performance of your life is dictated by the rehearsal of your imagination. Therefore, if you would step into the role of emperor, begin rehearsing it now. Walk into every room as though the crown were invisible upon your head. Speak to every person as though you are already established. Treat yourself as one worthy of respect, for the world will only echo the respect you first give to yourself. Now I know what some of you are thinking. You say, but Neville, am I not deceiving myself if I act as though I already am what I am not? And I answer, no, my friend. The only deception is to believe the senses more than imagination. Remember, what the senses show is the shadow of past assumptions. What imagination reveals is the seed of future reality. To walk in the new identity is not deception. It is faith in the unseen. Let us consider an example. Suppose a man lives in poverty, yet he desires to be rich. If he continues to walk like a beggar, slouching, apologizing, thinking small, then wealth cannot come to him. But if he begins to walk as one who already possesses abundance, holding his head high, treating every coin with wits, carrying himself with dignity, then the world begins to rearrange itself to match his new walk. The outer follows the inner. Or consider the one who longs for love. If she walks as though unwanted, avoiding eye contact, expecting rejection, radiating insecurity, then she creates the very conditions she fears. But if she walks in the new identity, carrying herself with the grace and confidence of one deeply loved, then the world mirrors that love back to her. You see, the walk must change before the world can change. This is why I tell you, begin with yourself. Do not wait for the world to crown you before you carry yourself as crowned. Do not wait for applause before you speak as though honored. Do not wait for riches before you walk as though wealthy. If you wait, you will wait forever. The world only reflects what you have already assumed. Now, walking in the new identity is not arrogance. Arrogance is insecurity pretending to be strong. The true emperor does not boast. He does not shout. He does not need to convince. His walk is silent confidence. His identity is unquestioned. He does not demand respect. He commands it naturally, for it flows from the certainty of who he is. When you walk in your new identity, you do not need to prove anything to anyone. You do not need to defend your dream. You do not need to convince others of your vision. Their doubt cannot harm you. Their disbelief is only a reflection of their own limitation. As long as you remain faithful to your walk, the empire must rise around you. But understand, walking in the new identity is not a one-time act. It must become a way of being. Every day, every hour, you must remind yourself, I am already who I desire to be. You may stumble. You may fall back into the old walk. That is natural. But when you catch yourself, simply return to the new identity. Do not condemn yourself. Do not despair. Just step again into the role, and the more you do, the more natural it becomes. Think of a child learning to walk. He stumbles many times. He falls again and again, but he does not say, "Walking is not for me." He rises and tries once more, until walking is second nature. So it is with you. Each time you stumble back into the old identity, rise and walk again in the new one. Soon it will no longer feel like acting. It will feel like truth. And here lies the mystery. When you persist in walking in the new identity, the world begins to conspire with you. Opportunities appear. People respond differently. Doors open where once they were shut. Why? Because your outer world is simply the reflection of your inner walk. The king attracts a kingdom. The beggar attracts pity. The one you assume yourself to be determines what comes to you. So I ask you tonight, how are you walking? Are you walking as a prisoner of circumstance, or as the emperor of destiny? Are you walking as one defeated, or as one already victorious? Look honestly at yourself. Your walk reveals your assumption. If it does not align with the empire you desire, change it now. Begin to walk in the new identity, even if it feels unnatural at first. With persistence, it will become your reality. And do not underestimate the small things. The way you stand, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself in silence. All of it matters. Every gesture is a declaration of who you assume yourself to be. Make each declaration consistent with your chosen identity, and soon the world must agree. So tonight, decide who you are. Do not wait for tomorrow. Decide now. If you are the emperor, then walk as emperor. If you are the artist, then walk as artist. If you are the healer, the leader, the visionary, then walk as such. For when you walk in the new identity, you are no longer waiting for the empire, you are living within it already. And when you live within it, nothing can stop its manifestation. 4. Refusing the old limitation. My friends, if you are to build an empire within yourself and see it unfold without, you must understand this. The old identity, with its chains and its limitations, cannot come with you. You cannot carry yesterday's failures into tomorrow's victories. You cannot build a palace upon the ruins of self-pity. You cannot walk as an emperor while still bowing before the old image of yourself. This is why I tell you, you must refuse the old limitation. Refuse it utterly. Deny it any claim upon you. The world will try to remind you of who you once were. Your memory will whisper of past mistakes. Circumstance will parade your failures before you as though they were permanent. But you must declare within yourself, that was never truly I. That was but a shadow, a passing role, an old state I once occupied. I am no longer there. Think of this. When a snake sheds its skin, it does not carry it along. It leaves it behind without regret. So too must you shed the skin of limitation. If you would step into kingship, you cannot keep dressing in the rags of the beggar. Now let me be clear. Refusing limitation does not mean denying that you have experienced it. It means refusing to identify with it any longer. You may have walked in failure, but failure is not who you are. You may have felt the pain of rejection, but rejection is not your true identity. You may have lived in lack, but lack is not your essence. These were experiences, yes, but they were never the truth of you. The truth of you is infinite imagination, divine power, eternal possibility. The danger is that most of us make a home in the old limitation. We rehearse it. We repeat it. We carry it with us, as though it were a badge of honor. We say, I am this way because of what happened to me. I cannot rise because of where I came from. I cannot succeed because of the wounds I carry. My friends, hear me. These are excuses dressed as reasons. The emperor does not excuse himself. He enthrones himself, and the throne is reached by refusing to bow before limitation. Consider the man who once failed in business. If he allows that memory to define him, then every future attempt will be poisoned by the assumption of failure. He will walk timidly, expecting collapse, and so collapse will come. But if he says within, that was but one chapter, not the whole story, I am no longer that man, then he severs the chain of limitation. He refuses the old and makes way for the new. Or think of the woman who has been betrayed in love. If she carries that wound as her identity, she will assume herself unworthy, unlovable, and every new encounter will reflect that assumption. But if she refuses the old limitation, if she says, I am love itself, I am worthy, I am cherished, then she steps into a new identity, and the world mirrors it back to her. Refusing the old limitation is not ignoring it. It is transcending it. It is standing before the evidence of the senses and declaring, I am not that. It is saying to the echo of the past, you have no power over me. You see, the old self will always try to return. It will knock upon the door of your mind with memories and doubts, but you must treat it as a stranger. Do not invite it in. Do not sit down with it. Do not rehearse its stories. When the thought arises, say within, that was then, this is now. I am not who I was, I am who I choose to be. Let me tell you a secret. Every limitation exists only because you give it attention. Stop feeding it, and it starves. Stop rehearsing it, and it fades. Stop identifying with it, and it vanishes. The old self has no life apart from your belief in it. Withdraw that belief, and it crumbles into dust. The question then is not, how do I escape my limitation? The question is, am I willing to stop identifying with it? That is the great refusal. And once you refuse, the empire opens before you. Now some of you may say, but Neville, my past is heavy. My failures are real. How can I so easily let them go? And I say, the past is no longer here. It exists only as memory. And memory lives only because you revive it. The moment you cease to give it life, it dies. You are not bound by yesterday, unless you choose to be. Do you see? Every time you assume the new identity, you are refusing the old. Every time you speak from the state of the emperor, you are denying the voice of the beggar. Every time you walk in dignity, you are refusing the chains of limitation. Refusal is not a single act. It is a constant choice. You choose in every thought, in every word, in every gesture. Will I honor the old or the new? Think of it like crossing a bridge. Behind you is the land of limitation. Ahead of you is the empire of fulfillment. You cannot cross if you keep looking back, longing for the familiar. You must burn the bridge of the old identity and walk forward with no return. That is the power of refusal. And let me tell you, the moment you refuse the old, life begins to rearrange itself. You will find old circumstances falling away, old relationships dissolving, old habits losing their grip. It may feel unsettling, for the old world is crumbling. But do not fear. The empire cannot rise until the ruins have fallen. Refuse the old and welcome the new. Now let us bring this closer. Tonight, as you sit here, ask yourself, what limitation have I carried as my identity? Is it the belief that I am too old, too young, too uneducated, too poor, too broken, too unworthy? Whatever it is, I tell you, refuse it. It is not the truth. The truth is that you are imagination clothed in flesh, and imagination knows no limitation. Close your eyes and declare within, I am not what I once was. I am new. I am free. I am the emperor of my destiny. Let that refusal ring louder than any doubt. Let it silence the old voices. Let it uproot the old beliefs. And the more you declare it, the more the world will bow before it. My friends, refuse the old limitation, for it was never truly you. You were born for more. You were born to reign. You were born to build an empire, not out there but within yourself. And once you build it within, the world must reflect it without. So tonight let us leave behind the rags of the beggar. Let us cast off the chains of the prisoner. Let us burn the bridge to yesterday. Let us step boldly, proudly, confidently into the new identity, refusing all limitation. For only then can the crown be placed upon your head and the empire be revealed before your eyes. 5. The power of speech. My friends, if you are to build an empire within yourself and see it manifest without, then you must understand the creative force that rests upon your very tongue. I tell you tonight, your speech is not idle chat. Every word you utter is a seed, and the world is the fertile soil that receives it. Your words are not mere sounds, they are decrees. They are laws sent forth to shape your destiny. An emperor does not waste his words. He does not mutter aimless. His speech carries weight, and the moment it leaves his lips, it goes forth as command. So it must be with you. If you would reign in life, if you would stand as master of your world, then you must learn to treat your speech as the scepter of your rule. Scripture declares, by your words you are justified, and by your words you are condemned. This is no poetic flourish. It is law. Your world, whether you realize it or not, is built by the words you have consistently spoken about yourself and about life. If your speech is filled with lack, you live in lack. If your speech is filled with defeat, you dwell in defeat. But if your speech is filled with faith, with vision, with certainty, then your world must reflect those very words. Let us take an example. A man says day after day, I can't afford it. Do you see what he has done? He has made poverty his decree. He has crowned himself with lack. His world is no choice but to reflect that declaration. Another says, I always get sick this time of year, and so the body obeys, not because of fate, but because he has commanded it through speech. Still another says, no one ever notices me, no one values me, and so he moves through life cloaked in invisibility, not because the world hates him, but because his words have written that script. Now imagine another man. He says, I am wealthy, I am secure, I am surrounded by abundance. He may not yet see it with his outer eyes, but his speech is aligned with the empire he is building. The world begins to shift, opportunities appear, people respond differently, because his words have gone forth as commands. Or think of the woman who says, I am loved, I am cherished, I am worthy. Even if she sits alone in her room, her speech is creating a world in which love must find her. Do you see then the power you hold? Your speech is not small, it is not insignificant, it is the shaping tool of creation. But here is the tragedy. Most of us are careless with words. We speak without thought, we joke about failure, we complain about lack, we curse ourselves with statements like, I'll never succeed, or I'm always unlucky, or that's just how life is. And then we wonder why the world seems against us. My friends, it is not the world, it is your words. The echo you hear outside is the sound of your own voice returning. So tonight I tell you, guard your tongue as you would guard your treasure. Refuse to let words of defeat pass your lips. Refuse to speak limitation. Refuse to declare what you do not wish to see. Instead, let every word be a seed of empire. Speak as the ruler of your world. Speak with authority, with intention, with faith. Now let us go deeper. Speech is not only the words spoken aloud, it is also the silent speech within, the conversation you hold with yourself. That inner dialogue is more powerful than the loudest shout. For what you continually say within shapes the very core of your being. If your inner speech is filled with doubt, I can't, I'm not, I'll fail, then even if your outer words sound positive, the inner decree will override them. So ask yourself honestly, what is the tone of my inner speech? Do I secretly scold myself, belittle myself, criticize myself? Do I constantly rehearse worries and failures? If so, then you are enslaving yourself by your own tongue. But if your inner speech is filled with strength, I am, I can, I will, then your whole world begins to align with that truth. You see, my friends, speech is not passive. It is active. Every word carries vibration. Every word is an energy that builds or destroys. If you wish to build an empire, you must speak only what builds. Let your tongue be a builder, not a destroyer. Think of a builder laying bricks. If every brick is strong, the wall will stand. But if every other brick is cracked, the wall will collapse. So it is with speech. If half your words are strong declarations, and half are careless contradictions, then your world is unstable. But if all your words are aligned with your vision, the empire cannot fail to rise. Now I know the habit of careless speech is strong. You may say, but Neville, I have spoken defeat for years. I cannot change overnight. And I tell you, yes, you can. Begin with awareness. Catch yourself in the act. When the words of lack rise to your lips, stop. Replace them with words of abundance. When words of fear try to escape, replace them with words of courage. When words of doubt creep in, replace them with words of certainty. This discipline of speech will remake your life. And let me remind you, it is not about shouting affirmations without belief. It is about speaking with conviction, speaking from the assumption that it is already so. If you say, I am rich, but you feel poor and desperate, then your speech is hollow. But if you say, I am rich with the feeling of wealth already alive within you, then the words carry life, and life must honor them. Speech clothed in feeling is unstoppable. Words fused with assumption are created power and motion. This is why the emperor's decree is never questioned, because it comes from the certainty of his identity. So I ask you tonight, how will you speak from this moment forward? Will you continue to curse yourself with casual words of defeat, or will you begin to speak as ruler, as sovereign, as creator? I challenge you for the next day. Watch your tongue. Refuse every negative word. Replace every careless phrase with one aligned to your vision. Speak wealth. Speak love. Speak power. Speak peace. And notice how your world begins to echo it back to you. For life is nothing but the mirror of your speech. The world is repeating what you have declared. If you do not like the echo, change the word. If you do not like the fruit, change the seed. An empire cannot be built with words of ruin. A kingdom cannot rise with declarations of defeat. But when your tongue speaks only faith, only victory, only abundance, then nothing can stop your empire from appearing. So tonight I leave you with this truth. Speech is power. Guard it, use it, honor it. Let your words become the foundation stones of the empire you are building. Speak as though already crowned, already enthroned, already victorious, and soon the world will bow to the power of your decree. 6. Seeing beyond the present. My friends, tonight I want you to consider the true vision of the builder of empires. The man who builds greatly does not see only what is before his physical eyes. He is not trapped by the present arrangement of things. He looks beyond appearances and perceives with the eye of imagination. He does not live as a prisoner of what is, but as the ruler of what shall be. This is the great secret of creation. To see beyond the evidence of the senses, to behold what the outer world denies, and to persist in that inner vision until the outer must yield. Too many people live in bondage to appearance. They look at their empty bank account and say, this is the truth. They look at their body in pain and say, this is reality. They look at their surroundings of limitation and say, this is who I am. And so they remain trapped, for they mistake the shadow for the substance. But the man of vision, the woman of faith, knows that the outer world is but a reflection of yesterday's beliefs, yesterday's thoughts, yesterday's assumptions. It is not the cause, it is the effect. The cause is always within. And so rather than bow to appearances, the visionary looks beyond them. He sees wealth in the midst of poverty. She sees health in the midst of sickness. He sees victory in the midst of defeat. She sees love in the midst of loneliness. This, my friends, is the mark of the empire builder. The refusal to be hypnotized by the present. Let me tell you, the present moment is nothing but clay. It is soft, malleable, waiting for the impress of your imagination. If you leave it as it is, it will harden into the same form tomorrow. But if you impress upon it a new vision, if you dare to see beyond what your senses insist upon, then tomorrow must bring forth a different shape. Do not accept the lie of permanence. Nothing you see today is fixed. The bank account can change, the body can change, the relationship can change, the entire world can rearrange itself to mirror your inner vision. But it will only do so if you dare to look beyond the present. I remember a story of a man who had nothing. His business had failed, his pockets were empty, and his friends had turned away. He could have said, this is my life. He could have bowed his head and surrendered to appearances, but instead he went into the silence. He shut his eyes to the outer world and opened them to the inner. Night after night he saw himself as he longed to be. Prosperous, respected, successful. Though the world mocked him, he persisted in his vision. And soon life began to shift. Opportunities appeared. Doors opened, and in time the man who was destitute became a figure of wealth. Why? Because he saw beyond the present. You must learn to do the same. The empire you long to build is not seen by the natural eye. At this moment it may not exist in the outer world. But if you can see it within, if you can walk its halls in imagination, if you can touch its walls with the senses of the mind, then it is more real than what your physical eye beholds. For what you see inside is cause, and what you see outside is only effect. The great builders of history all possessed this gift. They saw cities where there were deserts. They saw commerce where there was wilderness. They saw light where there was only darkness. The outer world laughed, resisted, even scorned. But the inner vision triumphed and the world was forced to conform. You too must cultivate this inner sight. When your senses shout lack, you must whisper abundance. When they declare failure, you must declare success. When they show you loneliness, you must see love. And when they scream impossibility, you must calmly affirm possibility. For the senses are servants, not masters. They report what has been, not what shall be. The master is imagination, and imagination must be obeyed if it is held with persistence and faith. Now let us be practical. How do you see beyond the present? How do you train yourself to behold the invisible? Begin by closing your eyes. Deny the outer for a moment. Let it fade into nothing. Then construct within your mind the scene that implies your desire fulfilled. See it vividly, feel it fully, walk in it as though it were already real. If your desire is wealth, see yourself living as the wealthy man or woman. If your desire is health, feel the freedom of a body whole and strong. If your desire is love, sense the warmth of companionship and joy. Do not make it a distant dream. Make it a present reality in imagination. And when doubt arises, when the outer world contradicts, persist. Return again and again to the inner vision until it becomes more natural to you than the evidence of the sense. This persistence is the difference between success and failure. Many begin with enthusiasm, but when the outer world resists, they surrender. They say, "It doesn't work," but the true builder knows the outer must conform. He does not abandon his vision at the first sign of contradiction. He holds it until the contradiction dissolves. Think of the seed buried in the soil. For days, weeks, nothing appears. The senses declare, nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, life is stirring. The seed is breaking. Roots are forming. The stem is pushing upward. If you judged only by appearances, you would think the ground is empty. But if you persist in faith in time, the plant breaks forth. So it is with your vision. Do not be deceived by silence. Do not be discouraged by delay. Beneath the surface, unseen, the world is rearranging itself to bring forth your vision. And I say to you, the greater the vision, the greater the resistance of appearances. Do not be surprised if the world screams louder when you declare yourself free. Do not be alarmed when circumstances appear to worsen. This is the old structure crumbling. This is the soil breaking. As the seed emerges, hold fast, see beyond, and the harvest must come. Let me tell you, faith is nothing more than the ability to see beyond the present. Faith is the eye of imagination, beholding what the senses deny. When Scripture says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, it is telling you this: what you see in imagination is substance. What you feel in vision is evidence. Do not wait for the outer world to give you proof. The proof is the inner vision. The world outside is only the echo. So if you wish to build your empire, do not measure it by present conditions. Do not say, I have only a little, so I can. Do not say, I am sick, so health is impossible. Do not say, I am alone, so love will never come. These are the lies of the senses. Instead declare, I have seen beyond. I know my wealth. I know my health. I know my love, and it shall appear. Hold to this, and soon the world must bow to your vision. For remember, every empire that stands today was once invisible. Every palace, every tower, every city was first seen only in the mind of its builder. What you now call reality was once imagination, and what you imagine today with persistence shall become tomorrow's reality. So tonight I charge you, see beyond the present. Refuse the prison of appearances. Walk by the inner eye, not the outer. Live in the vision, and let the world catch up. For the empire you seek is already within you. And when you see it clearly enough, the outer world will be forced to reveal it. 7. The discipline of persistence. My friends, tonight I want to speak to you about the quiet power that separates those who dream from those who manifest. That power is persistence. The world loves quick results. We live in a time where people want everything at once. Instant wealth, instant recognition, instant healing. And when it does not arrive on their doorstep like a parcel in the post, they abandon their vision, they surrender their dream, and they say, it does not work. But I tell you, everything works if you persist. The law of imagination, the law of assumption, the law of faith, they are unfailing, but they demand of you the courage to stand in your vision when the outer world mocks it. They require of you the discipline to return again and again to your inner conviction when circumstances shout the opposite. Persistence is not glamorous. It does not make headlines. It is often hidden in silence, practiced in the quiet of your room when no one is watching. But persistence is the furnace in which the empire is forged. Think of the sculptor chiseling stone. One strike of the hammer does not reveal the form, nor 2, nor 10. It may take 1,000 blows before the image emerges. If he struck only once and stopped, you would never see the statue. If he struck only 10 times and gave up, you would never see the beauty. But because he persists, stroke after stroke, day after day, the form that was hidden within the stone is revealed. So it is with your dream. Each act of imagination, each assumption of the wish fulfilled, each refusal to bow to appearances, these are the blows of your hammer. With persistence, the invisible becomes visible. Without persistence, the dream remains buried. Let us be honest. Persistence is often uncomfortable. It means continuing to see yourself wealthy, When the bills pile up, it means walking in the joy of health. When the body aches, it means affirming love. When the bed feels empty, everything in the outer world will tempt you to surrender, to accept appearances as final. But persistence says, no, I know who I am, I know what I have seen, and I will not be moved. This is not mere stubbornness, it is faith in action. Now let me show you something profound. Persistence is not force. Too many think persistence is straining, struggling, desperately clinging to an image with tension. That is not persistence. That is fear dressed in effort. True persistence is calm, steady, assured. It is the quiet knowing that no matter what the outer world says, the inner vision will prevail. Imagine a farmer planting a seed. He does not dig it up every day to check if it is growing. He does not shout at the soil or weep because he sees only dirt. He waters, he tends, and he waits in confidence. That is persistence, not frantic effort, but faithful expectancy. So when I say persist, I do not mean you must exhaust yourself in endless hours of visualization or repetition. I mean you must faithfully return to the end again and again, whenever doubt arises, when appearances tempt you to forget. Remember, when fear whispers failure, assume success. When the senses deny, persist in your inner knowing. Let me tell you, one assumption held faithfully is stronger than 100 made in fear. It is the quality of persistence, not the quantity of effort, that determines the result. Some of you here tonight may have begun well. You caught the vision. You felt the thrill of possibility. You declared your desire fulfilled, but then life contradicted you. The bank account grew smaller. The pain seemed worse. The door was shut. And so you grew weary and said, it was only imagination. And you returned to the old state, the old belief, the old acceptance of limitation. But I tell you, do not judge the harvest by the first storm. Do not declare the seed barren because it has not yet sprouted. If you persist, if you return, if you stand, the vision will harden into fact. Persistence is the bridge between the unseen and the seen. Without it, the dream remains a shadow. With it, the dream must take flesh. Now let me give you a practice. Tonight before you sleep, choose the scene that implies your wish fulfilled. Enter it in imagination as though it were true. Feel it, accept it, rest in it. And tomorrow, when the world denies it, persist. Do not abandon the scene. Return to it. Carry it with you as you move through the day. And when doubts come, as they surely will, let them remind you to go back within. That is persistence. This persistence is not only for days or weeks, but for as long as it takes. Do not measure the time. The promise is sure. If you hold it, it must unfold. Listen to me carefully. The outer world has no choice but to conform. It cannot resist forever. It may delay. It may disguise. It may even appear to deny. But it cannot resist. For the cause is within, and the inner state is master. Persist long enough, and the outer must yield. The test of true faith is persistence. Anyone can believe when the evidence agrees. But faith is proven when the evidence denies and yet you still believe. That is the mark of the Creator. Think of the great inventors, the pioneers, the builders of civilization. They persisted. How many failures did Edison endure before the light bulb burned? How many rejections did Abraham Lincoln suffer before he became president? How many battles did explorers fight before they reached new lands? If they had judged by first appearances, the world would be darker, smaller, poorer, but they persisted. And so we walk in their light. You too must persist. Your vision may not be for a light bulb or a nation, but it is for your life, and it is just as sacred. Persist in the health you desire. Persist in the wealth you claim. Persist in the love you know is yours. Persist until the world bows to your inner certainty. Remember, the outer world is not your master, it is your servant. And like any servant, it may resist at first, but it cannot resist forever. If you persist in commanding it by your inner assumption, it must obey. So tonight, take courage. Your dream is not denied, only delayed. Your desire is not impossible, only invisible. Your vision is not fantasy, it is prophecy. If you persist. Let me close this section with these words. Persistence is love in action. To persist is to honor your desire, to remain faithful to it when others scoff, when circumstances deny, when even your own mind trembles. To persist is to say, I believe in you, I will not forsake you, I will hold you until you are born. Do this and I promise you, the child of your imagination will be delivered into the world of flesh. For persistence is the midwife of creation. 8. The power of inner speech. My friends, if you would understand the secret key to creation, you must turn your attention inward, not merely to your thoughts, but to the very speech that runs within you. You may not notice it, for it is so constant, so habitual, that it seems invisible. But your inner speech, the silent conversations you carry on throughout the day, is the architect of your destiny. It shapes your emotions, it molds your beliefs, it carves the channels through which your outer world must flow. Do not think that only the words you speak aloud matter. What you murmur in silence is more powerful still, for the outer word passes into air, but the inner word sinks into the depths of consciousness, planting seeds in the fertile soil of your imagination. And every seed planted must bring forth after its kind. Listen to yourself. Listen honestly. What is the dialogue you carry when no one hears? Do you accuse yourself? Do you tell yourself stories of lack, of weakness, of failure? Do you rehearse arguments with those who wronged you? Do you repeat the refrain, "It always happens to me, I never succeed, I am not enough"? If so, you have discovered the cause of your outer circumstances. Life is forever reflecting your inner conversation. Now I tell you, change your inner speech, and you change your world. When I say act as if, I do not mean only with your body, I mean also with your mind. Act as if in your inner dialogue. If you would build an empire, you must first hear yourself as the emperor. You must feel the respect, the honor, the dignity in your conversations. You must learn to silence the voice of fear and to replace it with the voice of victory. For every man is self-conversed into being. He becomes what he talks to himself about. You are doing it now, whether you know it or not. You are engaged in ceaseless speech, and it is weaving the tapestry of your future. The tragedy of man is not that he imagines too little, but that he imagines wrongly. He engages in inner quarrels, in gossip, in complaint, in self-accusation, and then he wonders why his life mirrors strife, lack, and defeat. But the wonder of man is that he may at any moment begin anew. He may turn the tongue of his mind to blessing, to praise, to gratitude, to victory, and by so doing, he builds a new world. Let me show you how this works. Suppose you desire success in business. You may visualize the office, the contracts, the applause. But if in the silence of your heart you say, "It's too hard, I'm not qualified, others have more connections than I do," then you are canceling your vision with your inner word. You are praying against yourself. On the other hand, if you begin to hear within yourself the voice of confidence, the voice of assurance, "I am capable, doors open for me, success is mine," then even if the outer world lags behind, it must eventually catch up. For your inner speech is the prophecy that must be fulfilled. Your task then is not only to imagine, but to govern the inner dialogue. Guard it as you would guard a treasure. Do not permit idle chatter of defeat to take root. Do not allow yourself the luxury of complaint, even in thought. For thoughts are things, and inner speech is destiny. Let us pause here for a moment. Imagine right now a friend congratulating you. Hear their voice in your imagination. Listen as they say, "I knew you could do it. You've succeeded wonderfully." Do not merely see their lips move. Hear the words, feel the warmth, sense the reality. That inner conversation, repeated and believed, will one day be played out in your outer world as naturally as night follows day. Now some of you will say, "But my mind runs wild. I cannot control it. My inner speech is like a river overflowing its banks." That may be so, but rivers can be guided. At first it takes effort, attention, discipline. You may fail often, but with persistence, you can redirect the flow. Each time you catch yourself rehearsing failure, replace it with the voice of triumph. Each time you hear yourself complain, transform the complaint into thanksgiving. Each time the voice of fear whispers defeat, let the voice of faith answer back with victory. This too is a form of persistence, the persistence of governing speech. And just as a child learns to speak by practice, so you may learn to speak inwardly with wisdom and power. Never forget, your inner speech is not a private matter. It is creative law. It is the script by which your play is performed. What you whisper in secret is shouted on the stage of life. Consider this. Many pray with their lips, asking God for blessing, yet in their inner speech, they deny it. They pray for wealth, but inwardly they say, I will never have enough. They pray for health, but inwardly they say, this sickness will never leave me. They pray for love, but inwardly they say, no one wants me. And then they wonder why their prayers seem unanswered. The truth is their prayers were answered inwardly, where they were spoken most sincerely. The outer words were only noise, but the inner words were faith. And it is always done unto you according to your faith. Therefore, if you would pray aright, let your inner speech agree with your desire. Let your secret words be words of fulfillment. Let your heart say, I am already what I long to be. I already possess what I desire. And persist in that inner dialogue until it becomes natural, until it becomes the song of your soul. Do not underestimate this. Empires are not built by bricks alone, but by words. Every monument, every city, every invention was first a word in the silence of someone's mind. A man argued with himself, convinced himself, encouraged himself, and then acted. Change the word and you change the action. Change the action and you change the world. I tell you, the great men and women of history were masters of inner speech. They may not have known the term, but they practiced the art. They spoke to themselves with boldness, with faith, with vision, and because they did, the outer world conspired to match their inner dialogue. Now let me give you a final exercise. Tonight before you sleep, have a conversation in imagination. Speak with someone you trust. Let them tell you of your success, your fulfillment, your joy. Hear it as clearly as if it were real. Do not force it, simply allow it. Repeat it night after night until it feels natural. This is the planting of the seed, and when the seed is planted in speech, it must bear fruit in fact. And tomorrow as you go about your day, watch your words within. Refuse to indulge in inner gossip. Refuse to rehearse fear. Refuse to dwell on defeat. Instead, let your speech be yea and amen. Let it agree with the vision you have chosen. For hear me well, the world is a mirror, and it will echo back the words you whisper in the chamber of your soul. So tonight I leave you with this truth. Govern your inner speech, and you govern your destiny. Change the conversation within, and you change the world without. Act as if in your dialogue, and you will one day act as if in your reality. For the tongue of your soul is the pen of creation. Write well and the story of your life will be glorious. 9. Living from the end daily. My friends, hear me now. If imagination creates reality, then the only question that matters is this: how faithfully are you living in the end? It is not enough to imagine once and then return to your old ways of thinking. Creation is not a single act, but a continual assumption. Life itself is sustained moment by moment, breath by breath, and so the state you wish to embody must become the atmosphere you breathe daily. Living from the end is not a trick or a ritual, it is a way of being. It is the steady decision to identify yourself now with the result you desire, and to walk through every hour as though it were already yours. This is where so many stumble. They say, I visualized last night. I felt it real before sleep. Why has nothing changed? Yet today they rose and returned to the old man, the old self, the old worries. They prayed in imagination, then doubted in action. They sowed a seed, then dug it up to see if it had sprouted. But I tell you, living from the end means you stop looking for evidence, and instead walk in the assurance that the evidence is already given. The tree is hidden in the seed, though the eye does not see it. The fulfillment is hidden in the state, though the senses deny it. Your task is to live as though the unseen were seen, and the invisible made visible. Ask yourself, if I were already the man I desire to be, how would I think today? How would I speak? How would I move? How would I treat others? How would I greet the world? Then live that way. Not tomorrow, now. Not when the money comes. Not when the healing appears. Not when the door opens. But now, in this present hour. This is not play acting. This is faith. Faith is not waiting for proof. Faith is living from proof unseen. Faith is the conviction that what is hoped for is already yours. When you live from the end daily, you create a new self-image, and the world, being only a mirror, must reflect it. If you persist long enough, the outer scene will be compelled to conform, but your persistence must be daily. It must be constant. It must be unwavering. You do not plant a seed one day and demand fruit the next. You live as though the harvest is certain. You water the soil with expectation. You protect it from weeds of doubt. You nurture it until it matures. So it is with your assumption. Once you assume the end, live in it, protect it, feed it, rehearse it, and do so daily until it feels more real than the evidence of your senses. Let me give you a clear picture. Imagine a man who desires to be free of debt. If he lives from the end daily, he does not rehearse fear when bills arrive. He does not repeat, I can't afford this. He does not complain, I'll never get out. Instead, though the bill may still come, his inner speech is, I am free, I have abundance, my supply is endless. He pays what he can, but he does so from the consciousness of wealth. He walks as a man of freedom, not of bondage. And soon the outer must echo his inner liberty. Or consider a woman who longs for health. If she lives from the end daily, she does not dwell on the symptom nor repeat the story of illness. She does not say, I am sick, even in thought. She assumes, I am well. She walks in her mind as one whole, radiant, full of vitality. She may still rest her body, but she rests as the strong, not as the weak. And in due season her body must conform to the strength she has assumed. Living from the end is not denial of fact. It is the affirmation of truth beyond fact. It is the recognition that the unseen is greater than the seen, and that the world must eventually yield to the state you faithfully occupy. Now I know some of you will say, but it feels false. When I say I am wealthy, or loved, or healthy, it feels like a lie. Yet I tell you it only feels false because you have lived so long in the old state. Habit makes the false feel true, and the true feel false. But persist, and the new state will become natural, and the old will fall away like a discarded garment. You do not measure truth by feeling at first. You measure it by faithfulness, and as you persist, feeling will follow. Therefore the key is discipline. Daily you must return to the end. Daily you must clothe yourself in the state desired. Daily you must dwell in the mansion of your fulfilled self, until it is as familiar as your own skin. This is why I urge you to use every idle moment. Waiting in line, walking the street, lying in bed, these are opportunities to assume the end. Hear again the words of your friend, congratulating you. Feel again the joy of accomplishment. Relive again the scene of fulfillment. Repeat it until it becomes the song of your soul. For creation is not finished in one act. It is sustained by continual assumption. Just as life is not one breath but many, so fulfillment is not one imagining but a steady living from the end. Do not be discouraged if the outer lingers. The harvest takes time. But know this, if you live in the end faithfully, the outer must yield. Law cannot fail. What is planted must be reaped. What is assumed must harden into fact. I say again, the outer world is but a shadow. The real substance is within. When you change the within and persist in that change, the shadow must follow. So tonight begin. Choose the state you desire, and enter it. Live from it not only in imagination, but in attitude, in inner speech, in your way of seeing life. And tomorrow, when you rise, put it on again like a garment. Wear it all day no matter what the outer world says. Refuse to be shaken by appearances. Persist, and the end will manifest. For living from the end is not waiting for a miracle. It is being the miracle. It is standing in the finished work and refusing to leave. Therefore I tell you, if you would transform your world, live daily, hourly, moment by moment, from the end. Let the word assume become your watchword. Assume the end, and dwell there. And when doubts arise, return again. When fears whisper, return again. When senses contradict, return again. Always return, until the state is unshakable. And when at last it feels natural, when you no longer try to live from the end but simply live, then you will see with your eyes what you have long seen with imagination. The invisible will become visible. The dream will become flesh. The word will become fact. So live from the end daily, and you will discover that heaven is not a far-off place, but a present reality, entered now through assumption. 10. Faith beyond senses. My friends, let us press deeper tonight into the heart of faith. For if imagination creates reality, then faith is the courage to prefer what is unseen to what the senses shout. Faith is the daring choice to stand unmoved when the evidence of sight, sound, and touch declares the opposite. Faith beyond senses, that is the key. For your senses are servants, not masters. Yet most men live as slaves to sight, prisoners to sound, captives of touch. They bow to the evidence of the outer world and call it truth. But truth is not what appears. Truth is what imagination sustains. The senses report the temporary. Faith claims the eternal. The senses tell you what was planted yesterday. Faith tells you what will be harvested tomorrow. And so I ask you, whose voice will you follow? Will you let the senses command you, or will you rise in faith and command the senses? For faith is not blind. Faith sees deeper. Faith pierces the veil of appearances and beholds the reality within. When the outer says no, faith hears yes. When the world says impossible, faith whispers, it is finished. Do you recall the words, we walk by faith, not by sight? This is not poetry, it is law. To walk by sight is to be tossed like a leaf in the wind, ever at the mercy of circumstance. To walk by faith is to be anchored in the unseen, unshaken by storms, unmoved by appearances. Faith is not pretending, faith is knowing. Pretending says, I hope this is true. Faith says, I know it is true though my eyes deny it. Pretending wavers, faith stands firm. Pretending is a mask. Faith is the essence of being. Now hear this. Every man already has faith. You are using it now, whether you know it or not. For faith is nothing but loyalty to a state. The only question is, to which state are you loyal? If you are faithful to lack, then lack will manifest. If you are faithful to sickness, sickness will reign. If you are faithful to rejection, rejection will meet you at every turn. But if you dare to be faithful to wealth, then wealth will appear. If you dare to be faithful to health, then health will blossom. If you dare to be faithful to love, then love will surround you. Faith is simply the direction of your loyalty. What you accept as true in imagination, you prove in fact. So I urge you, take your faith off the altar of appearances and place it upon the altar of assumption. Stop worshipping the evidence of senses and begin worshipping the unseen truth you choose to occupy. How is this done? By practice, by refusing to allow the senses to dictate the conclusion, by declaring within, I am what I desire to be, though all the world says otherwise. Consider the story of the man who desired success. For years he looked at his circumstances and despaired. I have no opportunity, no wealth, no help, he said. His senses mocked him daily, but one night he dared to close his eyes and assume success. He saw himself congratulated, honored, established. He persisted in this inner knowing, though the outer remained unchanged. And soon opportunities came from nowhere. Doors opened. The world conspired to match his faith. Why? Because he chose loyalty to the unseen, rather than slavery to sight. Or think of the woman who longed for love. Her senses screamed, you are alone, no one wants you. Look, your phone is silent. Your nights are empty. Yet she chose to believe otherwise. In imagination she walked as one cherished, valued. She lived daily as the beloved, though her senses still mocked her. And in time the outer scene caught up. A man appeared who mirrored her inner faith. What seemed impossible was only the inevitable result of her loyalty to assumption. Do you see? Faith is not begging. Faith is not hoping. Faith is being. Faith is standing in the end as though it were now, and refusing to move. But I tell you, the senses will fight you. They will shout, look, nothing has changed. They will taunt, you are deceiving yourself. They will whisper, be realistic. Yet, if you yield to them, you remain as you are. If you persist beyond them, you change your world. Faith is a higher realism. Faith says, the unseen creates the seen. Faith says, the invisible is more substantial than the visible. Faith says, what I assume now must harden into fact. And so I say to you, train yourself to doubt your senses and to trust your imagination. Train yourself to disregard appearances and to embrace assumption. For the senses show you only the shadow. Imagination reveals the substance. Let us test it. Tonight, choose one desire. Enter it in imagination. Feel it real. Know it is yours. Then tomorrow, when the senses deny it, refuse to be moved. Return to the state. Reaffirm the end. Walk in faith, not by sight. If you persist, the outer must yield. This is not philosophy. This is law. The law is simple. What you are faithful to in imagination, you will meet in fact. Faith beyond senses is the bridge from desire to fulfillment. Without it, you remain bound by appearances. With it, you become master of creation. So let the senses rage. Let them scream. Let them mock. You remain unmoved. You know who you are. You know what you have assumed. And your knowing will outlast their shouting. One day they will bow. The eyes will see what imagination knew. The ears will hear what inner speech declared. The hands will touch what faith embraced. For the senses cannot resist forever. They must conform to the faith you sustain. Therefore I urge you tonight, choose faith beyond senses. Dare to see with the eye of imagination, not the eye of flesh. Dare to hear with the ear of spirit, not the ear of man. Dare to walk in the unseen until it becomes seen. For this is the secret of transformation, to remain faithful to the end you desire, unmoved by the evidence of the present. So ask yourself now, what do I truly desire? Then assume it, live in, and when the senses deny, smile, for you know their report is temporary. And when the world mocks, rejoice, for you know the unseen will soon be seen. Faith beyond senses is not a struggle, it is rest. It is the rest of knowing. It is the calm assurance that what you see in imagination is more real than what you see in fact. So tonight, enter that rest. Believe beyond what your eyes tell you. Trust beyond what your ears hear. Walk beyond what your hands touch. Live from the unseen until it becomes the seen. And I promise you, if you remain faithful, the day will come when the world itself will testify of your faith. The unseen will stand before you. The invisible will take form. The dream will walk in daylight. This is faith beyond senses. This is the key to creation. This is the power that changes worlds.